So before we start, I'll just like to mention that throughout the course, we're obviously going to talk with Ashutosh, and he is going to take us through his journey for GMAT prep. And whatever questions that you might have, you can keep on sharing in the chat, or you can share in the Q&A box as well. We might not be able to answer them right then and there, but we'll definitely take these questions up towards the end of the session. Yeah. So today here with us, as you guys know, is Ashutosh Gupta, who's a computer engineer, yeah, from VJTI. And Ashutosh has scored a 730 on GMAT with a Q49 and V40. Yeah, so he aced the GMAT. And through this webinar, we're going to understand how he managed to do that. So, Ashutosh, I invite you to join this webinar and introduce yourself and probably let the audience know a bit about yourself.
Hello everyone. I am Ashutosh Gupta, and I'm currently in my final year of computer engineering from VJTI, and I gave my GMAT back in September, and I had enrolled in the advanced batch of IMS with Anshuman Bharatwat sir and Paramjeet Das sir, and that's it about me. And so please feel free to ask any questions which you have, and I'll surely answer all of them in the Q&A box. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ashutosh, for that. And, just to start right off, before we get into how you strategize your prep and how, you kind of structured the entire journey, why did you think of uh, probably GMAT? How did GMAT come into picture for you? What made you think of GMAT as an option?
Since the second year of my engineering, I was almost pretty sure that I would do an MBA,
Hmm.
and I wanted to keep my options open in India as well as abroad. So I was mainly interested in the deferred MBA programs which happen abroad as well as in Indian schools like ISB.
Right.
I was pretty clear. So GMAT was an obvious option because I mean that is the test which is taken by most of the B schools. So during my third year end, I started my preparation for GMAT, and I'm grateful I scored a 730. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. Yeah. So you wanted to keep all your options open, with
Hmm.
regards to colleges in India and abroad. So were
Yes,
you
yes.
preparing for CAT as well?
Yeah, actually, I was preparing for that, but what I planned was first I would finish my GMAT, and then I would start my preparation for CAT. But let's just say I realized a few things about the kind of work which I want to do,
Hmm.
and I kind of switched my career plans, and I decided I want to work in the social sector. So,
Hmm.
like currently, I'm preparing for UPSC right now, and GMAT is my backup option in case that doesn't work out. So I never actually had a formal preparation in CAT. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Great, isn't it, guys, to have a 730 as a backup option? Yeah, it always is a good comforting thing to have. So one good thing about GMAT is, and which is probably, it's that's why it's such a convenient exam to write, because if Ashutosh probably couple of years down the line or 3 or 4 years down the line plans to go for an MBA, now his score would still be valid and would be as credible as it is now. So that's great, Ashutosh, sharing your insights. And I think it's a smart thing to do to write GMAT, especially when you're, well, in your case, you switched, you kind of are now
Hmm.
on a different path and you have thought different things about your career that you want to kind of go on with. But still, having done that is just a smart thing to do, right? Because of the various options that the exam offers. So
Thank you,
let me
sir.
just get right into it. When you started off, you obviously started, you enrolled into the GMAT Advanced, right?
Hmm.
So why was it that you didn't go for the GMAT Live, and what made you think that Advanced is the kind of course that would be better for you?
Initially, I enrolled in the normal GMAT only,
Mhm.
but the problem I found was that I was practicing, but the main concern was that my score wasn't just able to cross a certain barrier. Like I was just
Mhm.
able to score 650 or 660 at max. Matlab.
Mhm.
So it was no matter how hard I worked and I was solving a lot of questions and I was doing it, but still I felt that something in my preparation was missing and I just couldn't figure out what it was. And it was really frustrating at the time. And I mean, so like that's when like I just saw a notification on my Telegram that like some GMAT advanced batch is starting. So I thought like I should definitely give it a shot because it was like a dead end for me. I was at a practically at a dead end in my GMAT preparation because my score wasn't improving, and even though I was studying hard, so I was really confused as to what I should do. So hence I decided to give GMAT advance a shot, and it really worked out for me very well.
Okay, so yeah. So I'll talk about, because there are many interesting points that you raised here. But before I come to that, I just want to ask you. So you mentioned that you kind of hit a plateau when you were scoring
Yes.
about 650 or 660
Hmm.
in the mocks.
At the best
So
case, yeah.
okay, all right. So what was the prep that went into it? Because it's not a bad base to
Mm-hmm.
start off with, right? It's a decent
Right.
score,
Mm-hmm.
but it's obviously not the score that you wanted.
Yes,
Still,
yes. Mm-hmm.
660 tells you that you're there and thereabouts with a
Mm-hmm.
few tweaks, and uh, and it's the little things that that you would have changed that
Right.
resulted in the score that you ended up achieving.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your preparation up until the point that you were scoring 650 to
So up
660?
until then, I attended the normal IMS live classes which were there, and I solve all those basic materials which they provide. But I would say that I mean I don't know how to put it, but I just solved all the IMS material which was there, and I solved almost half the OG.
Hmm.
But I still wasn't able to figure out what is the right approach to do that. And to be very honest, a lot of times what would happen is that I would get the question correct, but it was like the logical basis on which I would solve a question was not correct at all. So it was more of kind of a dicey thing because, as I said, 650, 660 was my best score. And like I went in 620, 630s as well.
Okay.
So I mean, it is a big range of scores, and a lot of factor was luck based. I think to like get that, and I only had very basic. I only attended the basic lectures of IMS. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay, and practicing the basic material and bit
Yeah.
of official guide.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it started with the advanced classes, because I remember that you would get quite a few questions correct in the quant section is something
Mm-hmm.
that I distinctly remember, and I figured out this guy is going to score well.
Mm-hmm.
And so with regards to quant, at least, and I'm sure Param felt the same way for verbal as well. We definitely saw that there was you had all the concepts in place, and you were
Mm-hmm.
applying the skills that we were talking about in the class as well. So we did exclusively the hard questions in the sessions.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were able to get quite a few of those correct, which is something that and every student, no matter how brilliant, struggles with those questions, because these are just the kind of questions that induce careless mistakes. They're not
Mm-hmm.
harder conceptually, but questions that induce careless mistakes. Now, when you said that uh, you didn't know what was it that was stopping you from uh, breaking the 700 barrier, what was it that you discovered
Mm-hmm.
you needed to improve on, or what was it that
Mm-hmm.
you improved on post the advanced classes?
Okay, so like the one major thing which I discovered was that my verbal was completely like I was almost a gone case in verbal because I wasn't able to score good at all. So regarding cons, I would say I had an advantage before because during my 11th and 12th as well as in my engineering case, I had done very much extensive prep regarding cons. So I would say that I had a pretty strong base in cons before I joined the advanced batch as well. Therefore, I was able to solve all those questions, but still like certain like there were certain areas in cons as well in which I was lacking. So I mean I used to particularly have trouble in the data sufficiency questions in and specifically those cases where like you have to put like let's say if you put a number between 0 and 1 and it would reverse the entire question and also like those things I guess I slacked it off in cons, but in verbal I was almost a gone case
Hmm.
because like I had zero confidence in verbal and especially in sentence correction. So verbal was the thing which I improved the most, I would say, and cons also I improved a lot, but verbal was the deciding factor if you would ask me.
All right, cool. So quads, you were already, mathematically you had a strong
Hmm.
background.
Yes.
Before I come to Oval, I want to talk about data sufficiency thing that you talked
Hmm.
about. So because it's a question type that one has not kind of dealt with before.
Hmm.
MCQs, problem solving, is something that everyone has faced. You've
Yeah.
attended
Right.
MCQ question. So what was it, if you can answer for the students present here,
Uh,
what was
so, hmm, no,
to improve
yeah.
on that?
Uh, so, like in cons specifically, I would say the primary ingredient which helped me was practice. Uh, uh, your video is frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So the primary thing which helped me was a lot of practice, and practice of not of easy questions, but of challenging questions, I would say. So GMAT Advance like helped me immensely with that, because that is exclusive. Like the questions which are solved in that batch are exclusively the advanced questions. So that thing really helped me a lot. And secondly, it was that I still remember that like there are certain tricks which you used to say in the class regarding, like for example, like in the modulus questions, you told us to apply the distance like distance approach to it. So which were had it been my own thinking, I would have done it in a very long way. But all those little things helped me save a lot of time, and to improve my accuracy as well in quants. Otherwise, so there is nothing such special thing, I would say, not nothing one factor, but it was it's basically just practicing hard questions, and like continuously striving to improve yourself, like checking where you went wrong, and then not repeating that mistake the next time, and just repeating the cycle over and over again. That's it.
Right, great. So analysis is what paid dividends
Yes,
towards me,
yes,
and yeah,
yes, definitely, definitely.
analysis of errors
Hmm.
and quality analysis, which helps you identify exactly what the reason was that the mistake happened, and obviously the next time you made it sure that the same mistake did not
Hmm.
happen. That
Yes.
was
Hmm.
that was what made you overcome the DS
Hmm.
challenge, so as to speak. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
coming to
exactly.
the verbal part of it, and you mentioned that SC was something that you struggled with,
Hmm.
probably more than the other two sections,
Hmm.
and you scored a V40, at the
Hmm.
end on the GMAT exam, which is a great verbal score. And so, and this is something that a lot of people would relate to, especially people from the math background, from the engineering
Hmm.
background. Verbal is something that they find slightly more challenging. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that from your experience and what you can share, how you went
Hmm.
about it, they can take a lot away from
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Hmm. Sure. So, like, should I start with my strategy for SCRCCR simultaneously?
Yeah, yeah. You
Like,
can talk about
yeah,
SC first because,
yeah, sure, sure, sure.
yeah.
So, see, SC, the basic concept is that there are a certain set of errors which are there, like parallelism, tenses, subject of agreement, pronouns. So, every error has a set of associated rules with it. So, the very first thing which any aspirant, any serious aspirant must do is first they should go to all the rules and see the corresponding examples. Like for example, parallelism error is there. Then solve after reading about that, solve 10 or 20 questions regarding it to get yourself familiarized with the concepts.
Mm,
So once you are done with all the theory, so it's like once you have learned the theory part of parallelism, then simultaneously start solving questions which are related to parallelism, and so on. But in my case, what I feel was a major blunder was that even though I studied theory again and again, but I just wasn't able to apply those in the questions which were so, like, many times the sentence used to come and I couldn't even figure out that what exactly is the error here.
mm,
So that was that was really challenging for me back then. And so it's in the GMAT advanced patch, so sir taught us a few elimination techniques. So SE is mainly about more about elimination rather than just reading the sentence and thinking in your mind what is the correct answer. You should rather think in a reverse way, like by seeing the options, you should figure out what would be the wrong option.
mm,
So that thing works pretty great. And apart from that, theory, like just reading the theory part of sentence correction is just one aspect of it. The application of it is a whole different thing, and for that you need a lot of practice. But I would say practice it in a proper direction. So earlier I just used to solve a lot of questions of SC. Like I used to sit and I just solve 20-25 questions at one go, and without actually properly analyzing them.
mm,
So in SC, what I feel is that if you spend half an hour of your time solving questions, then you should spend another half an hour of time analyzing those questions. And particularly in SC, it is the case that we arrive at an answer, but it is not through the proper logic which it must be which must be used. So, like, you should not only figure out that why you got a particular answer wrong, but you should also figure out that why you got a particular question right as well. because while analyzing we tend to skip the questions which we got right in the first place, right?
Mm.
So that should not happen. Yeah, I solved a lot of SC questions, and like in GMAT Advance, what I felt was that like when you see someone solving a question right in front of you, then you actually start developing an approach as to okay. So for example, it's like a sentence is given and we are asked to solve it, and if I am not able to figure out the error, then sir will explain like first of all you should look for such keywords. Like for example, it is written or its is written in plural or singular, then you should go about that. So it's a gradual process, and slowly and slowly you start developing your approach as to how do you tackle a question, and slowly you build on improving it. But just make sure that you are not solving questions blindly, and your target is not to finish the official guide, not to
Mm.
finish solving the official guide, but to like finish and understand it completely what we have written. So it's like if any question of official guide, I ask you to solve it again, you must get it right. So that should be your target rather than just saying that yeah, I have completed the official guide and still I am not getting any score. So that doesn't work out. So quality over quantity is what I would say is required in sentence correction.
Mm. Right, great. So I love how very passionately talked about the entire process, because so much went into it, and analysis of it as well. And you highlighted two things: that practice obviously is important, is the key, but it has to be directed. There has to be
Exactly,
a certain
exactly, yeah.
direction
Hmm.
to what you are
Otherwise it's
practicing.
of no use at all.
You know, some people, yeah, exactly. So, Ashutosh talked about analysis of it, and analysis in the sense that you should be absolutely clear as to what the question was, and he put it very nicely towards the end. And another manner of saying it could be, if you are asked to explain that question to someone else, you should be able to do that. That is
Hmm.
the manner in which you should be, kind of, you should attain that kind of with the problem towards the end, and also analyzing not just not just the questions that you got right. So I've just switched my connection. The other Wi-Fi was,
Hmm.
giving me a bit of a trouble. Anyway, so you summarize it, very nicely. Quality over quantity, practice that has to be targeted, analysis is the key. Yeah. So
Hmm.
solving the whatever number of 400, 450 questions from the official guide is not enough. Solving them thoroughly
Hmm.
and really picking the bones out of the errors is what really counts. So this was about SC, which
Yes.
and SC is one of the areas which methodologically can be mastered,
Hmm.
because it has set of rules.
Great.
And theoretically many students might be comfortable with that, but to apply them, learning it as to
Hmm.
what are the strategies that are required for you to apply them, can take a bit of a time getting used to, but it's
Hmm.
very doable because it's
Exactly. Yes.
methodological.
Yes.
It has a set of
Hmm.
rules. How did you how did you cope up with something like reading comprehension? Because a lot of students
Hmm.
struggle with that. they,
Hmm.
they are just very confused. What is the strategy that they should adopt
Hmm.
when it comes to reading comprehension? How did
Hmm.
you go about
Yeah,
ensuring that
so
you
I'm
are doing
like
well in RC?
I should just tell a small background of mine. So like I have absolute like since coming from an engineering background, and like I have absolutely no previous background in like reading and stuff, and neither do I have any hobby of reading novel or something like that. So I mean, initially I used to get very scared regarding reading comprehension, and it was like when I like initial days when I used to see an RC passage, I was like, I sometimes
Mm,
in some passage I didn't even understand one thing of like what is written here, and it was really frustrating
uh,
initially. But like after going through like after practicing a lot, and like I have like boiled the reading comprehension down to several pointers which I would like to share. So the first thing which
yeah,
I would like to say is reading comprehension. It is basically a test of your ability to read and understand something, read and comprehend something basically. So the comprehend word is very important. So please remember that it is not a speed reading contest at all. Like if you can't understand what is the meaning of the thing which is written, then it is of absolutely no use. So initially, when you start reading, then don't look like take as much time as you want. It is perfectly fine initially, definitely initially, and the main target should be you should be able to understand what is written. And like since I told you that I mean I had no previous exposure to reading stuff. it's like and reading comprehension actually requires your mind to be habituated to read passages, and not just passages, but passages which are a bit challenging to your mind. So it's one thing to just read a storybook, and it's another thing to like solve reading comprehension, because the latter requires a lot of concentration, and it really challenges your mind. It's like you have to be present at the moment when you are reading it and completely devote yourself to that. And because it requires it. So your mind needs to be habituated to read challenging passages. So what I made sure to do was that I used to every day 1 hour I used to read the Economics magazine. So
Mhm.
like Economics magazine is I would say it is a pretty great magazine, and moreover it is based on international relations, which is a subject of my interest as well. So I used to enjoy reading it as well, and the passages are really, I mean, they are really good. So one can try that out, or otherwise you can I mean any other thing which you like to read, you can read that as well, but you should make sure that it is challenging to read and you are not getting comfortable reading it. So that point you should make sure. And it will take time to, like, your mind will take some time to get habituated to reading that. And so it's a very gradual process. So I took almost about 25 days, I would say. 25 days, at least 1 hour seriously I used to read that. And in fact, thanks to GMAT, I developed an habit of reading economics, and I still did read it out of interest. But that's another story. But yeah, so you should very religiously take 1 hour of your time every day if you are weak in reading, and read. So it's like simultaneously, when you start solving passages, you will yourself notice the difference, that wow, you are able to read it a bit faster than before, and you are able to understand what is given here. And so simultaneously that would improve as well, because reading comprehension is like the questions in the reading comprehension are not that difficult. Once you understand the passage, you would be able to answer the questions. So it's not like a cat has a bit more difficult reading comprehension, I would say. But GMAT, its questions are almost very straightforward in most of the cases. So it's like just keep on practicing, keep on reading, keep challenging your mind, I would say, and keep on solving. Yeah.
Wow, great. So now I hope that all of you guys listening got this, because to be someone who's always been an avid reader and to do well on verbal is one thing. But as Ashutosh said, and he, very candidly put that there was
Yeah.
nothing of sorts of reading in his life. Like these
Nothing at
two
all.
aspects were
Yeah.
detached.
Yeah.
Ashutosh's life and reading. These are two
Nothing,
different
nothing,
planets.
nothing. Yeah.
And still to be able to master that. And there was a process, very religiously doing something that worked from him, which in his case was reading material that was relevant, that would be similar to what he might encounter on the GMAT, what similar to the GMAT passages that he might encounter. And 25 days of doing the same thing repetitively over and over again would obviously show changes to you. So 25 days is not a longish period for
Mhm.
someone who's, shit scared of reading. 25 days it would take,
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is
take
very much
that
doable,
as a
very much
learning.
doable. I
Yeah, so
generally
I
say
think
to
that's
people that
very,
if I
very
can do it,
inspiring.
then I mean everybody can. It's like that, I feel.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that insight. And I hope that you guys have made a note. Yeah, and obviously, once the context of the passage is clear, once you can comprehend it, answering the questions becomes that much more
Hmm.
easier. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's a great, wonderful story. I'm going to share that with all the students, henceforth. And yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
So yeah, so something that probably scares most of the people who probably think that they are weaker on the verbal section. Reading comprehension is also something. SC obviously is very rule based. There are various techniques, but reading comprehension you can develop in limited amount of time ability to read and comprehend. That's very doable. Take that as a learning from this webinar. So coming to the third section of it, which uh, in my opinion, probably the section which throws up the most interesting and probably the most challenging questions is a critical reasoning aspect
Hmm.
of it. What did you make of that? What was your strategy when you prepped for critical reasoning?
Hmm.
And if there were any gaps that you identified initially, how did you ensure that you covered those?
Hmm. So critical reasoning, in my opinion, is in a way a subset of reading comprehension, because the underlying set of skills which is required to ace both of them are almost similar, because it's like you have to read what is given and you have to make sense out of it.
Right.
So that is the basic core principle behind both of them. So in my case, what I felt was that like as my reading comprehension was improving side by side, critical reasoning also parallelly, like slowly, gradually it improved.
Mm.
And moreover, one particular thing I would like to share is that like every aspirant must know that in critical reasoning there are 4 5 types, like strengthening, weakening, boldface, assumptions. So I, in particular, generally used to get the boldface and the assumption questions all very. I used to get very less accuracy in them,
Mm.
and so it's like whenever I used to even give a test or whenever I used to practice, I most of the times I used to get them wrong. So like I made it a point that I mean, no matter what it takes, I am just going to solve the assumption questions only, and I am going to practice them a lot. And like I contacted sir and I just asked him the basic strategy for basic thing. And I started. So in GMAT club, when you go, you can there is a good option of filtering the question based on the question type. So I just
Right.
selected the assumption questions, and like a couple of days, the only thing which I did was solve the assumption questions. That's it. Because
Yeah.
it was like I mean I had to get it right, because I mean almost all the time I did not understand what the logic was. So
Mm.
it may happen with you as well, that you may not have a problem with critical reasoning in general, but you may have problem with specific parts of like maybe you can get a problem with strengthening the argument questions or something like that. So you can have a targeted preparation, I would say, in critical reasoning. In critical reasoning, and like solve more of those questions simultaneously. And yeah, like I said, reading comprehension is must. If that will improve, this will simultaneously, slowly, gradually, it will improve. It will improve. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So you talked about it being very essentially a subset of reading comprehension,
Hmm.
and which is true because a lot of critical reasoning is inference, drawing conclusions, or
Hmm.
it's kind of exactly a subset, but a much smaller passage kind of to read,
Yes.
much
Yes.
smaller text to
Hmm.
read. Hence, the extent to which they can test you on the skills, which can be inference through either assumption or boldface or strengthening and whatever the question types might be, can be much greater. Hence, the analysis part becomes much more important when analyzing the errors of, say, a critical reasoning question. So you talked about, you figured out the kind of question you were getting wrong, assumption. You practice those. Just take me through.
Hmm.
When you say that you would get a lot of questions wrong,
Hmm.
did you keep a track of, what kind of questions you're getting wrong? Did you keep an error log?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how did you ensure that what was your way to
Right.
analyze the
Hmm.
errors and what did
Okay.
you take out from them?
Hmm. One very important point which I would like to say here is that everyone, all like it is very much preferable that you solve the online version of the official guide. So like when you buy the official guide, on the front page only there is a code which you have to just go to the Wiley website and enter, and the same book in the online format is unlocked. So the online version has many advantages. The first one being the actual exam would be held on a computer, and the second one would be that there is a timer to every question, and all those things are almost like pretty much set up. Like you
Mm.
can see which part you gone wrong, which part you gone right, and you can build your own custom practice sets. And so coming to your point, there is also an option to flag a question and to add a note besides each question.
Right.
So like whenever I used to get a question wrong, I used to write it down, that what exactly was the problem, is I like what exactly is the problem I am facing, and I used
Mm.
to flag that question. So
Mm.
in the online version, there is a separate section only which will display all the flagged questions which you have along with the notes beside it. So
Mm.
that makes it
Right.
very much easier to just navigate and to organize your stuff, I would say. So yeah, that is how like I used to keep track of every question which I got wrong. I used to flag
Right.
all of them, and in many of them I used to like even write no basic notes. Like I mean, for example, in sentence correction, like in some question I have boiled down to two options, but I don't know key which one is right. So
Mm.
in that note, I would just write key. I have boiled it down to two options, but I don't know how to proceed further. And and I used to go to the next question that way. And I
Mm.
made sure that like I got every question in the end. I got every question like completely corrected, and understand the logic behind each and every one of them.
Great, wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah, he talked about the online official guide, which kind of facilitates you keeping
Hmm.
an error logged right then, and you can flag the
Yeah,
question, make
it
your own
makes your
notes.
life very easier. It makes your life very easier, and I can't stress on this fact enough. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one very important thing which a lot of students who do not necessarily see the improvements in this course do is not taking proper notes. Note taking is
Hmm.
very essential,
Hmm.
has to be clear, because these
Definitely.
are your pain points. These are the points, if you improve on, will see you improving. You will see your score improving in the long run as well. So very important, note taking is essential. And you should be able to jot down, crisply and clearly, as to what was it that made you, or what's the reason that you got that particular question wrong, so that when you come back to it later, maybe a month after it, and Ashutosh can second me on that, because you do keep on revisiting your errors. It's important,
Hmm.
because those
Yes,
are generally
yes.
the points that would trouble you, and those
Hmm.
notes would be of great help in that case.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we've talked about quant and verbal. Quant, obviously, only slightly, and verbal extensively, all the three sections: SC, RC, and CR. And your strategies with all the 3 years are something that I'm sure a lot of students will take away. Uh, so this is a phase, after having done all the practice, now you're all prepped up, all the concepts are in place, the application, the way to apply those concepts are also in place. When
Hmm.
did you start with your mocks? When did the mock testing come into picture
Hmm.
for you?
So, like, I started with my mocks, you can say approximately 1 month before I gave the exam.
Hmm.
And in fact, the last couple of week was entirely like almost mocks only. So it like every alternate day I used to solve a mock. I gave a total of 15 mocks in general in
Right.
total. And in the last couple of weeks it was like like solving a mock, analyzing which part I was like which part I had the most mistakes. On the next day, just doing that only, only solving that particular thing, and then giving another mock, and then
Right.
keep on continuing, and keep on repeating the cycle until the exam date. That
Right.
was my thing which I do.
Right. So alternate days, a day in between kept for. So you would
Improving.
analyze the
Hmm.
same day, and the next day you would
Yes,
work to fill those gaps.
right, exactly.
Okay, great. So can you take us through this process? Because this
Hmm.
is the process in theory we know, but how
Hmm.
did you
Hmm.
put it into place? For example, you've written a mock
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
and let's say you got 8 questions wrong on verbal, and you
Hmm.
got, say, maybe 7 questions wrong on quant.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
would you go through your mistakes right
Hmm.
then and there? How
Okay.
did you go
Yes.
about it?
So it's like in the morning I used to give one mock, and let's say for example in my mock I got one reading comprehension I got completely wrong. Let's say 3 questions or 4 questions I got them wrong, or I wasn't able to understand that passage, and I got them wrong. So what I did was that on that day it's like I used to so like my preparation was basically in the last couple of weeks it was divided into two aspects. One was the aspect which was one thing which I have to do regularly every day, no matter what. And the another
Hmm.
aspect was that the improvement part, which I'm telling, the specific improvement part. So on
Hmm.
that day, I used to do only that thing which I used to do regularly, and on the next day, I used to do that improvement part. So, for example, like I said, suppose in that mock I got the RC questions incorrect, many RC questions incorrect, or I was struggling with a particular RC. So what I did was that I like in the online version of the official guide, I used to select only the hard. So like I said, online version helps you create your own practice sets, right? So I only selected hard questions. I gave a practice like made a practice set and solved it. Like 3 4 times I used to do that of 10 questions each
Hmm.
approximately. So I solved that particular section very extensively on the next day, and on the another day I gave another mock. I mean that's how it that is how I did it. Yeah.
Right. So, see why I asked this question, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Please make a note that writing a mock is about the analysis of it. The purpose you write a mock is to identify the gap and to work on those gaps
Mm-hmm.
before you write the next mock. So that's what completes the entire cycle of, let's say, writing a mock, which was something. Again, one thing that stands out, in Ashutosh's case, is the clarity of the process, and the dedication to the process, which ensured that all the errors And that's what the journey is supposed to be. Actually, all the errors which would point out to various gaps were completely filled and taken care of. That's what a great process would do. And sticking to the process for a month or a couple of months, it's not an exam like CAT where you require 6 months of prep. 2 to 3 months,
Mm.
max 4 months will see you, being in a position to be able to ace a GMAT. But sticking to the process is really, really important, something that stands out. Another thing that stands out in your case is, I see that you're very, stubborn
Mm.
in with regards to getting clarity on why you got those questions wrong. Something that I believe is a great quality for a student to have who wants to ace test prep. Yeah, you must really feel the pain when you get something wrong, because when
Exactly.
you
Very,
do that,
very, yeah.
you'll ensure that you have filled those gaps. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Like
so
especially when
ensure.
I used to see the score at the end of the box, and I know it from my heart that I could do better, right? So it was like I mean it used to like I mean I was really sometimes no, I can do better, and I should work for it that way.
Right, great. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, if you're someone who doesn't get trouble when they probably see an error, probably try to induce that somehow. Yeah, start
Hmm.
practicing that as well,
Yeah,
because that's an important aspect. So eventually you wrote GMAT, obviously. Did you write the online GMAT, or was
no,
it the
the
center?
offline version at
Okay,
the center.
okay, and why did you go for the offline version in spite of the fact that
Uh,
you don't have to write
mhm.
an AWA in the online? So what
Yeah,
made you decide?
I mean, it was like at home. I mean, I just, I don't think, I don't picture myself giving a test at my home.
Hmm.
So it was just that, and I am like, I know that I perform well in like if the atmosphere around me is like all like other aspirants are taking the exam, and it's
Hmm.
a different atmosphere when you give it offline, and you just can't
Hmm.
replicate that at home. And like I know myself, and I know that I would be able to perform in that kind of atmosphere. So yeah, and it is a very subjective thing. Like it totally depends on
Definitely.
the person who is giving. I have my friends who have given online and aced the GMAT as well. So
Right.
it is totally a personal decision, I would say.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so why I raise this question, everyone, is because you'll be making this decision as well. And, like Ashutosh here, enjoys that kind of an environment where he's kind of feeling the atmosphere and the occasion is conducive, uh, probably for him for test taking. Uh, there are people who probably feel in exactly the different way, which is they
Hmm.
find it much more relaxing at home. They feel it's less of an occasion and hence they can perform better. Yeah, so if you're someone who tends to get very nervous, something that Ashutosh is not, then probably online might be a thing for you. But otherwise, center provides you with the proper ambience and atmosphere, the feel of test
Yeah,
taking,
the
if
feel of
you
it.
love that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Now Ashutosh interestingly has a very interesting tip on
Hmm.
a specific to AWA that he
Yeah.
talked to me about, and he actually wanted to share that with all of you present here. So I'm sure that this will help you a lot. So Ashutosh, please, all
Yeah.
yours.
So just a second.
Yeah, yeah, of course, take your time.
So can you see my screen?
Yep. Yes, I can.
Like, is the text written on the screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'll zoom in a bit.
Slightly zooming in might be better for those
Yeah.
watching on phone. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think this works.
Is
Yeah.
it fine now?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, so just to give you a brief background, so like I had a very less time to prepare for AWA, and the honest reason for that is I slacked off. I won't say I am something bad. I slacked off, and that's why I had very less time to prepare for AWA. I had only 2 to 3 days at that like before the exam, and I had no idea how to go about it. So like I consulted with sir, and of course I in the IMS book, I went through 2, 3 AWAs, and I figured out that being the like taking out the engineer in me, you can say, or bringing out the Jugadu guy in me, I figured out that there are some parts of the question, like there are some parts of the AWA section which can be applied to any AWA question, whatever you take. It is like that. So what I did was I literally mugged up the things which can be applied. So I was literally like on my way to the center, I was literally mugging up, and like when the AWA question came, I just blindly typed it before anything. and I developed a template of my own in those 2-3 days, and that like worked out to be really well, and like it resulted in a 616 AWS score for me. And I shared this template with 2 other people as well, and both of them got a complete 616. So like I don't know what's the how much the credibility of this is, but I can say that it worked for me and it worked for 2 other people. So it there is a high chance that it may work for you as well, or at least some parts you can take what you feel like. So I'm not aiming that you will get a 616, but it will definitely be proved to of great help. So like
Yeah,
I would
before I let
yeah,
you continue, yeah. So Ashutosh had only 2 to 3 days, because of
yes.
whatever reasons he slacked off, is what he mentioned.
Hmm.
Now, the most important thing taking away from here should not be let's do AW only 2 day before the test. Yeah, that
Yeah,
should
yeah,
not
yeah.
be the
Please,
thing.
please, 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 please don't.
Let's not take that away from here.
No, 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 no,
Yeah,
not at all.
carry on, Ashutosh.
Yeah. Uh, so I would like to explain it by giving an example, because like through example one can understand it much better. So here, like the question you can see, so it's like in the question it says that like obesity is a big problem for house cats, and most like 50% of them are obese, and therefore the kitten owner should feed their kittens this Joyox feline brand kitten chow. So Joyox feline brand, it's a particular brand, and the kitten chow is the food, and it is said that it has a lower fat content, and it will ensure that the kitten will grow to healthy and normal weight. So that is the question, and you are supposed to critically analyze this argument. So any AWA section, you should break it down into 6 paragraphs, I would say. So in the first paragraph, what you have to do is you should basically rephrase what is given in the question only. So you just have to like that thing. I mean, the word for it in Hindi is like golmol karke. You only have to like just rewrite what is given in the question in a way. So, like as you can see here, in the first paragraph, what I have written is the author argues that in order to tackle the problem of obesity, like they should feed their kittens this because it has a lower fat content, and hence it would hence it would make them grow up in a healthy while maintaining better. So basically the initial 6-7 lines you observe, I have only written what is there in the question. I have just rewritten it, and the next part which is highlighted in the blue, you can straight away mug up this part, because like you are supposed to critically analyze what is given in the question. It means that you are supposed to bring out some flaws. So you need to like there must be certain statements which says that the statement has flaws. So instead of thinking on your own, you can straight away like just copy paste this part. I would say, though the underlying issue has made it because of this reasons, the author's argument is unsubstantiated and flaws, and some of the arguments are listed as follows that way. And then in the next 3 paragraphs, you have to find the flaws, and you have to write them. So how to find the flaws? It's like you have to look for things, for example, like whether an author has used an example or something. Like for example, here the author has used a particular brand, Joyex feline brand, but he has not mentioned any other brand. So like that could be one of the possible flaws. Or like you can say that any statistical data is used. So it's like in this the author hasn't mentioned how many kitten he has actually tested this thing in. So that could be another possible flaw. And another so it's like uh, once you go through 3 4 AWS, no, then you will automatically understand that how to pick up those flaws. So the next 3 paragraphs should be followed by flaws. And please keep in mind the word, like see in the in the second paragraph I have used the word firstly. The author assumes that controlling obesity is the only thing which is required for the healthy growth. So like use these transition words. These transition words are very important, like firstly, secondly, and so on. Now, so yeah, coming to wait, I'll just change the image. Hmm. Wait, yeah. So similarly, another paragraph I have written, it is, I'll just zoom in. Wait. So like similarly on the third paragraph, I have mentioned another flaw and I have just described it. And yeah, that is it. And the fun part comes in the last paragraph, because they are pretty much predictable.
Hmm.
So it's like, see, so on the like on the fifth paragraph, you can just simply, in my opinion, like apply a bit of your own logic as well, and you can copy paste the highlighted part in blue as well. So like this line which I have written, see, although the written argument is categorically unconvincing, the author could strengthen the argument if he provides more solid statistical analysis regarding it. So these are general kind of things which can be written in almost every AWSA. So like when you start reading, no, then you will be able to like relate it much more better what I'm trying to say. And you have read a few more AWS. So that is it. And yeah, in the last paragraph, I think it is a very generic paragraph, and this so for sure can be written in almost everything, because see, it is a very general statement that in conclusion the author presents an interesting but a flawed statement, and he has failed to consider factors that has a significant bearing on his claims, and so on. And hence I
Right.
remained unconvinced. So
Right.
I mean, this is exactly what I did, and this is exactly what two other friends of mine did, and we had a good AWS score.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So
Talk
yeah,
about jugars of an Indian engineer. Yeah.
yeah,
Coming
it's a
to
typical
complete
jugaad.
four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is
So
a purely
again,
jugaad based method.
yeah. So again, the thing that stands out is again the process. And, even with limited time, you could kind of arrive at a structure and the thing that you call the jugaad. And you could, kind of pick up what would nicely fit into that process and see you acing the AW in a couple of days' time as well. So that's wonderful for someone who had no, kind of a prior relationship with reading or writing to be able to score a V40 and a 6 on AWA. So that's really inspiring. What stands out, as I keep on mentioning again, is the dedication and the process, and really the stubbornness to ace the exam. So that's wonderful. We'll take a few questions at this stage, and just the tips that Ashutosh shared with regards to AWA, just kind of go through that. I'm sure that you identified that some parts, because AW follows a particular structure, there's a pattern that you can follow. And so for Neetha, for example, is a master at that. You guys can reach out to her if you're someone who's struggling at the AWA, and she'll help you with that for sure. So let's take up any questions that might be there. You guys, you can share the questions. I think I had a couple of questions that I've asked already. Anyone else who wants to, get any of their queries sorted, or anything that you might be struggling on with regards to your prep, and you want Ashutosh's perspective on that, please type that question in the chat box or in the Q&A. So Mithane is asking any colleges you applied for in the deferred MBA. So Mithane, as Ashutosh has already mentioned that he's changed his plans with regards to his, how he envisions his career. But I'll let Ashutosh talk a bit about that.
So like my original plan was to apply for those deferred MBA in Yale, Harvard, Stanford, and so on,
Hmm.
and apply to ISB as well. So like I didn't apply to abroad, but so it's like my plan might sound a bit complicated, but it's like I have applied to ISB right now, and I am awaiting results for that. And so it's like if in case UPSC, so ISB has a deferred option, right? So if in case UPSC doesn't pan out, then I'll go to ISB if I get in, obviously. So like, yeah, that is my plan right now. If you want to know. Yeah.
All right. So Sarthak here asks, because at a particular point we exhaust with our 800 score tests, adaptive tests,
Hmm.
at a point. So which are the mocks that you wrote post that? What is
Uh,
the test series that you would,
yeah.
after the 800 score, kind of follow
Hmm.
on?
To be very honest, initially I just gave the IMS mocks, and at the end of my test days, I was saving those 805 mocks with me, as well as the official mocks which you get once you register with the GMAT, the two mocks which you get. So to be honest, I never really had to buy any other mock, because like those were enough for me.
Hmm.
But still, if in case, let's just say you have exhausted those mocks, then I would suggest that if you can buy, then buy the official ones only, which are available with the GMAT, because I found them you can say pretty relevant to the what is asked in the actual exam. So if you are buying, you can buy that. While I personally haven't bought anything extra.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll just, share my advice here, because this is something that is
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
common a question. So considering that you have the five adaptive ones, and a lot of you have perception that maybe the non-adaptive, the linear tests are not good enough. That's not true. Maybe the score is not very reflective, but as a process, it would work just as fine. Yeah, because the process is identifying the gaps and then filling those. So do make use of the linear tests as well. Secondly, the best test to go for after you're done with the 800 scores and the two official ones are the further official mocks, right? So that's an investment that is worthwhile because you're always encountering questions exactly as you would encounter on the GMAT. On any other sources, it's not exactly how you might get on the GMAT, and slightly, it's not totally in sync. That being said, there are a few free mocks available out there for Kaplan, Manhattan, Veritas Prep, etc. So all of these free combined and the official combined and the 800 score combined, you should not really, be in a need to purchase any more
Hmm.
mocks. Mostly that would hold true, but in case you do need to, please get in touch with a mentor and kind of take a guidance on that particular thing as well. Yeah. Okay. So uh, a student has asked, and I'll let you answer this, Ashutosh. I've
Hmm.
answered this multiple times. Does the GMAT have questions that are similar to the official guide? Like the structure question is the same?
Yes, yes, yes. So, like, official guide is the only book which you need to solve in order to research GMAT, I would say. There should be no other resources. So, it's like quality over quantity, as I said earlier. So, like the three books, the official ones, so the official guide and the verbal review and the quant review. So, these are more than sufficient if you have solved them in a religious manner. I am like definitely sure you will ace it if you have like solved each and every one question of them. No,
Great.
no, there
Wonderful.
is no need to dive in. Like in the like online, if you search, there are many resources available, and it's a whole entire chaos out there. But please don't bother yourself to go there, and like don't get confused. Like the more thing, it's not about collecting the resources; it's about solving them and understanding what went wrong. So please
Right.
keep in mind that. Yeah.
Wonderfully put. And Akhil, I'm sure that answers your question as well. Yes, Akhil, in fact, we do. Yeah. You can get in touch with me. Of course, the advanced GMAT batch comes with extra practice material as well. So, so you solved the official guide, you solved the quant review, and you solved the verbal review aside the
Yes. Hmm.
advanced as well. Great,
Hmm.
wonderful. So, I believe these are all the questions that we had, and
Hmm.
this was a thoroughly enriching session,
Yeah.
not just for the
I
students,
would
for
like
me
to
as
just
well.
say a couple of extra pointers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please go.
It's like, like, I mean, right now when I listen myself saying all these things, and it sounds really idealistic, right? That when I said that you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. But please understand that I am no superhuman, and there were many times that I used to feel very much demotivated, and sometimes I used to just leave it. I mean, I'm like, I don't want to do it like that way, and it's like a lot many times I did not used to see myself improving, and it was really frustrating. So
Hmm,
please understand this fact that it is a slow process. It will take time because it is supposed to take time. You cannot I mean expect result in 10 days or 20 days or something like that. It takes I mean hard work in a gradual phased manner. So it's a marathon and not sprint race. And if you are feeling demotivated or something, and if you are not able to get the questions correct, even after, let's say, even after you have read all the basic concepts of sentence correction, and even after you have solved them, and there would be a lot many times that you still won't be able to get the answer correct. It used to happen a lot with me. So don't get demotivated by that, I would say, and just continue to keep on improving yourself. That's it, because all these things are very normal. And another point which I would like to say is that please be brutally honest with yourself. So it's like you can make 100 excuses that I mean I am not good with verbal, and my I had no background, or like I don't know, like I am not from engineering, so my cons is supposed to be weak. So see, GMAT is a very well structured and organized exam, and anyone who studies well will be able to ace it. So just don't, so like you can make excuses to your teacher, you can make excuses to your friends, and you can make excuses to everyone basically, but you can't lie to yourself. Like inside from your heart you would know that you are not giving your 100%. So like before you sleep at night you would know that you could have done much better, and you could have studied much better. So I would just say ki stay true to your preparation, and just don't find excuses to like I mean just to sideline it. Just stay true to your preparation, and please understand, it is, again I'm saying, it is very normal to feel demotivated. And like I have interacted with a lot of GMAT aspirants also before, and some of them make it like their entire life, GMAT their entire life. So this is another point I would like to say ki GMAT is not the end of the world, and it is definitely not God's greatest gift to mankind. So it is just an exam. So please treat it like one. Like study religiously for it, keep on improving yourself, understand that it is a slow process, have some patience, stay true to yourself, and be brutally honest with yourself. And keep on doing it over and over again, and you will be able to ace it, I'm sure.
Wow, wonderful. So that's a lot of substantial motivation coming to your way, guys. Those who are in the middle of the prep, I'm sure that you're motivated after that, after the very inspiring journey that Ashutosh had for GMAT prep and all the insights that he shared. So a lot of takeaways. Uh, do kind of the points that you felt relevant, do imbibe them in your own prep as well. I'm sure that they've if those paid dividends for Ashutosh, the same would pay the dividends for you as well. Thanks a lot, Ashutosh, for doing this. It was great fun, very insightful. Not just the students,
Mhm.
even I as a GMAT mentor enjoyed it thoroughly,
Mhm.
and I think your insights
Thank
were
you.
wonderful
Yeah,
and really
thank you so
helpful.
much, sir. Yeah. So I used to attend a lot of webinars like these before the Toffer Shock, and it feels good to finally give one myself.
Wow,
So thank
wonderful.
you for this opportunity as well.
Yeah, all of you, let's take that as a motivation. Yeah, doing that, and yeah, hopefully we would be doing another webinar like this, like Ashutosh
Mhm.
and I are doing it.
And if anyone would like to reach out to me personally, then you can feel free to do so via LinkedIn. My name is Ashutosh Gupta, and you can even contact me. Let's say you can write a mail to me, and we can take things further from there. So my email ID is Ashutosh Gupta 2599 @gmail.com. So I'll repeat it like Ashutosh Gupta, ASHUTOSH, Gupta, GUPTA 2599 @gmail.com. So you can connect me either ways, and I would be happy to help you. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. Thanks a lot, Ashutosh, and all the best for your changed career path. I hope that you never have to come back to, you never have
Yeah,
to resort to the
even
730 GMAT score, but
I hope so too.
nevertheless,
Yeah.
it gave us a great learning and, helped our students have that great insight as well.
Thanks a
Thanks a
lot,
lot,
sir. Thanks a
Ashutosh.
lot.
All the
Yeah.
best for your
Thank you, sir.
future endeavors.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye bye.